This is New Harmony, a town in Indiana that was meticulously planned to be the perfect city of the future. But how can a perfect city destroy itself? To answer that question, we'll have to go back to the beginning. It all started when this guy named Charles Fourier came up with this idea called a phalanx. This is a picture of what he thought the ideal community would look like. So basically, it est this big square with housing for 1,200 people on the outside and all the farmland you need in the center. See, Fourier thought society at the time was just horrible. Everyone was super poor, there were insane amounts of social classes, and everyone just hated each other. Like, literally everyone. So he came up with this idea of a new way of living. He wanted an egalitarian community, where there was no poverty, everyone worked together, and most importantly, everyone got along. His plan was to create these communities called phalanges all across the world, and at first it went pretty well. They created one in France, and it actually lasted for 30 years. Then they made one in New York, and it lasted only 3 years. So they had to move to a different location, and they settled on this one right over here. Charles Fourier never actually visited the community that bears his name. When he heard about the United States, he thought America was the perfect place to start his utopian society. So before he died, he sent 2 of his top students to survey some land in Indiana. They picked out this spot, and by the 1820s, the first Fourierist utopian community was established. It was called New Harmony. The plan for the town itself was a little bit different than what Charles had originally envisioned. The town wasn't going to be a square, but instead it was going to be a hexagon. And the streets themselves weren't going to radiate from the center, but instead they were going to be laid out in a grid pattern. Now this might seem a little bit weird to us today, but this was actually really progressive at the time. Most towns in the early 1800s looked something like this. There was no real planning behind them, and the streets were just kind of squiggly and random. Even Philadelphia, which is known for its nice grid system, only had a grid in the center of the city, and the rest of the streets were a total mess. So this was quite the departure from what was normal. The only thing that was kinda weird was the fact that they chose a hexagon. Usually, when you plan a city, you want it to be a square or rectangular, because those are the easiest shapes to build on. But apparently, someone thought a hexagon would be fun, and so that's what they went with. I'm not sure if they thought everyone getting along would be more likely in a hexagon, or if they just thought it was aesthetically pleasing. Either way, it's kind of silly. Not many cities are hexagons. Like, look at this map of all the cities in the US. You can't even see any of them because there's only like 4. So aside from the shape of the town, the main thing that set New Harmony apart was the fact that everyone worked together. If you wanted to work in farming, manufacturing, or retail, you could just sign up for that job. It didn't matter if you had experience or not. And if you did something well, you could advance to a higher position. So it was the first American community to institute what we know today as a meritocracy. But despite all these positive aspects of Fourierist society, it didn't last very long. By 1827, only 5 years after it was founded, it was completely gone. There are a lot of reasons why the community failed. For one, they tried to attract intellectuals to their community by promising them free room and board in exchange for teaching the other members of the community. The problem was that the intellectuals that they attracted didn't really want to teach. They just wanted to party. The community quickly became overrun with hard drugs, alcohol, and free love. Also, the practical day-to-day running of the community was a nightmare. Like, imagine you trying to farm corn, and one day a group of people comes up to you and says, "Hey, from now on, you're gonna grow wheat. That's what our plan says, and that's what you're gonna do." Well, obviously, that's terrible. But in New Harmony, this was exactly what happened all the time. The plan said they should be growing corn, but then the plan changed and said they should be growing wheat. The entire community was run by this planning committee, and they would just change things up whenever they felt like it, without consulting anyone. So, needless to say, people weren't too happy about it. And on top of all that, they also had some serious financial problems. When the community was founded, they sold stock in order to raise money. The problem was they overestimated how many people were interested in buying stock. So they ended up with a bunch of money and no idea what to do with it. Eventually, they decided to invest it in a couple factories, but unfortunately they lost a ton of money, and by the end of the community they were completely bankrupt. In the end, there were only 2 buildings left standing when the community disbanded. One of them is still standing today, and it's called the New Harmony Gallery of Contemporary Art. It's right here. So if you ever go to Indiana, you can check it out. Now, the town of New Harmony was completely abandoned, but the area was still settled by regular, old people who didn't believe in communism or utopias, or whatever this Fourier guy was trying to build. These people needed a name for their town though, so they did what any reasonable people would do. They held a naming contest. They put ads in newspapers all over the East Coast asking people to suggest a good name for their town. They received tons of suggestions like Harmony Town, Newville, Oakland, Glenwood, Lincoln City, Zion's Rest, Economy, and of course Hoosier City. In the end, they chose the name Harmony, probably because they didn't want to be associated with all those weird utopian people. Fast forward to today and you'll find that Harmony is not exactly a great place to live. Sure, it has a population of over 2,000 people and it's not too far away from Evansville, but it's also not a great place to live. Its schools are horrible. Its crime rate's through the roof. People are moving out as fast as they can, and their median household income is lower than the national average. And if you look at the houses, it's clear that nobody's really taking pride in them. They don't mow their lawns or paint their houses. They just kind of let them fall apart. The best part is this house right here, which has both a basketball court and a giant water tower. It's really impressive. But overall, it's not really a great town. It's boring, it's run down, and nobody seems to care about it. I think the reason for this is because there's this underlying sense that their town isn't theirs. They don't own the town, they're just squatting in it. The whole town was planned out by this guy named Fourier, who never even saw the community he was trying to build. The original settlers built the town with the hopes of creating a utopian society, but it quickly devolved into chaos. And then, once the utopian society fell apart, regular people moved in and they just kind of ruined the place. So the current residents of Harmony don't have much to be proud of. They're just stuck in this dying town that was planned by a guy who never even visited. As for the original plan of Harmony, well, it's mostly been abandoned. The streets themselves are still laid out in a grid, but the rest of it is just a memory. The utopian society of Harmony may be gone, but its legacy lives on. Today, we have giant corporations telling us what to do every day. We have government officials making decisions that affect millions of people. And we have politicians passing laws that they themselves don't even have to follow. What happened to Harmony is a cautionary tale for us all. When we allow experts to plan out our lives, we give up our freedom. All right, that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.